Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Monday, March 24, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, UB launches Belize Policy Institute, Belpre UB. Paul Williams' transition from police department not yet finalized. And tourist fatally injured during Turnif snorkeling trip. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
Prepare for the heat.
Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. The University of Belize, UB, today launched the Belize Policy Research Institute, dubbed Belpre UB, whose first executive director will be Dr. Dylan Vernon. Belpre UB will be chaired by Henry Anderson, with the likes of Dr. Colin Young, UB's president, Vincent Palacio, attorney Leslie Mendez, Dr. Gilbert Canton, Beverly Wade, and Dominique Morales, serving as members of its advisory board. The Institute prides itself as being independent and multidisciplinary, with the aim of producing high quality and accessible research and knowledge. The ultimate goal is improving policymaking so as to impact Belize's sustainable development. UB President Dr. Vincent Palacio affirmed the important role of such a policy institute and declared that it is time for UB to lead.
This institute reflects our commitment to placing knowledge at the heart of decision making. It represents a deliberate step forward, one that strengthens UB's role as a leader in policy research and public service. This is the spirit that will guide Belpre UB, forward-looking, confident, and grounded in purpose. Colleagues, this institute was not created to sit quietly in the background. No. Belpre UB will be active, engaged, and bold in its purpose. It will focus on issues that matter to Belize, from education reform to economic development, from governance to climate resilience. It will produce research that speaks clearly and directly to the challenges we face as a country. As president here, I see this institute as part of a wider responsibility. UB must lead in generating ideas that improve lives. We must bring evidence into the heart of national conversations. We must train students to succeed in their professions and to contribute meaningfully to society.
Chairman Anderson outlined commitments of Belpre to ensure relevance but also accountability.
So Belpre, as you heard and you will hear from Dr. Vernon, is here to help to fill that gap in Belize, to serve as the creation or the driver of knowledge, to ensure that we look at it from a people-centric approach, and to ensure that we get the younger generation involved. If I ask the UB students in here today to stand or to raise your hand, how many people here are UB students? Okay, so that's good. We have a few. You guys are the future leaders, and having the opportunity of a research institute on campus, it's a big deal. We will work, right, as the board to touch on these areas, because we will only have achieved, I have a word I like to use called finitiative, right? This is an initiative to start. But if 100 years from now, Belpre isn't in existence, then we would have failed. So as this new board, some of the things that we will focus our attention on to ensure that we bring the credibility is to focus on ethics, that we institutionalize that, on integrity in everything that Belpre does, on the rigor and the quality of the research, right? Ensuring it's people-centered approach. A lot of times policies can come about, but we don't start from the beneficiary or the people who are affected. So that's key to ensure that when we develop policies, that we are doing it in a way that has impact. We have to also ensure that the work of Belpre is relevant, right? There are a lot of policies you could be developing, and then there are elephants in the room that we're not tackling, so it has to be relevant. We have to also ensure, or we will also ensure, that Belpre has a robust monitoring and evaluation mechanism to be able to measure the impact that the Belpre is delivering. So not only looking at measuring what other entities should be doing and holding them accountable, but ensuring that we check our own change and hold ourselves accountable. to ensure that we deliver innovation. That is what it is. It's not about creating, sensation and drama. No, it's about creating knowledge, creating innovation to ensure that we put Belize on a path.
Executive Director Dylan Vernon told the gathering today that he always envisioned a research unit for the National University and is grateful that the seed financing was put together to see this dream of his realized.
Since independence, Belize and its political actors have tended to muddle through a national policy context characterized by inconsistency in national development planning, sporadic policy analysis practices, a mixed policy coordination record, significant levels of policy evaporation, where we have a policy but it kind of just stays on the shelf or disappears, and difficulties in measuring the actual impact of public policy. Given the time constraints today, I won't go into examples right now, but just think for a second about the ongoing policy messiness around cruise ship docking and national ports, and think about the lack of policies in important areas such as migration and weak policies in such areas as public transportation.
Dr. Assad Schumann gave the keynote address at today's launch. It was titled, "To Tinker or to Transform State Policies in Independent Belize." The UB Board of Trustees approved the establishment of a Belpre in late 2024. To coincide with the launch of the Institute, a first newsletter was launched named Policy Pulse. Belpre's office will be located on the UB Education campus in Belize City. However, it will have presence on all UB campuses. There is still no confirmation yet on the potential of Commissioner of Police Chester Williams transitioning over to the Ministry of Indigenous, Constitution and Religious Affairs and Transport as its CEO. Last week, the commissioner told a media house that he was to inform the cabinet secretary of his decision Thursday, and we learned independently that details of his departure and compensation package were still being worked out. Today, Williams was still not able to speak with any finality on that potential new role, but did say he hopes the matter is concluded by the end of this week.
Well, I cannot speak to my appointment as CEO as yet. I know that, yes, there is something in the making, and hopefully we should be able to finalize this week. And once that is done, then I will be able to speak to you in respect of that. But I can certainly say that I am willing and prepared to serve in whatever way the Prime Minister sees it fit for me to serve. If it is that I go to the Ministry of Transport as a CEO, there's a lot that I know my expertise can take to the ministry with a view to enhance road safety across this country. Last year, we had over 100 traffic fatalities on our highways, and that certainly is unacceptable. So we need to do a lot in terms of making our highways safer for all our road users, and that is going to be my number one priority if I'm to move over to the Ministry of Transport as a CEO.
Will the department be working maybe closer with the police department in that sense?
Well, I told my commanders this morning that if that should come to fruition, that we certainly will have a brother-sister relationship, because we must work hand in hand to be able to ensure that we keep our highways safe for all the users. Yeah.
The Compol did say that should he accept the post, he feels he would be prepared for all that falls under the umbrella of the ministry due to his experience as police commissioner and him being a trained lawyer.
Well, the fact that I am a trained attorney, that should be able to help me with some of the legal issues where the Constitution and the Indigenous Peoples Affairs are concerned. Those two certainly have a lot of legal implications, so my legal skills will be able to help the ministry there. And as it relates to traffic, police officers, we do traffic work as well. So I have a vast knowledge in the field of traffic that I also believe will be able to help the ministry if I should go there.
Williams was also coy about potentially climbing the political ladder following this new role. He told the media that he does have aspirations, and whether those are political or otherwise, he will make his position known when the time comes. In related news, Deputy Commissioner Dr. Richard Rosado is rumored to be the next Commissioner of Police once Chester Williams assumes the role of CEO in the Ministry of Indigenous, Constitution and Religious Affairs and Transport. Today, while he abstained from naming him, Williams said he believes that Dr. Rosado is fit for the role. He also told the media that he has informed his commanders of his potential move and asked them to support the new compol, which he said they have agreed to do.
It's not within my purview. Whoever the minister and the prime minister decide to be the commissioner of police, I will welcome that person. I will support that person to the best of my ability, because after all, I live in Belize and I want Belize to be safe. So we must work together to ensure that we keep our country safe. I told them that they need to show their support behind the person who is going to be appointed Commissioner of Police when I leave. I explained to them the importance of them supporting the new commissioner. We are a disciplinary organization, and if you have something personal against the person who is going to be appointed, you need to put that aside and focus on your professional responsibility, which is to work with the commissioner in making this country safe. The person who is going to be appointed, I believe that he is capable. He should be able to continue from where I am leaving off in enhancing the effectiveness of the police department and making this country safe. So they all pledge that they will support the person, and I do hope that they do as they say.
A group of tourists were snorkeling in the Turniff Atoll on Sunday when tragedy struck. Upon arrival at the location where they intended to go below water, the accompanying tour guides placed markers to alert boat captains of their presence. However, sometime after, a boat sped over the area, fatally injuring a 70-year-old tourist. The boat captain is in police custody. Earlier today, the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, shared more information.
Yesterday, a group of tourists were snorkeling, I think, in the area of Turniff. From my understanding is that the area where they were snorkeling, the tour guides had the area marked off as they would normally do to indicate that there is activity taking place there. And a boat came from nowhere and just ran through the place at very high speed and ran over the tourists, causing the tourists death. The boat captain is currently in police custody. The investigators and personnel from the Port Authority went out to the scene this morning. They should be returning sometime this evening. But from what I am seeing, I'm not going to be the one to determine if the boat captain is to be charged or not. But from what I am seeing, based on what has been told to me, that is a clear case of causing death by careless conduct. I think at the very least, the boat captain should be charged for causing death by careless conduct. It is common knowledge to all of these tour operators that when you see certain things in the waters as markers, you have to avoid those areas because people are either diving or snorkeling there. And the tour operators who took out the tourists discharged their responsibility by making sure that they had marked off the place to indicate to any boat that would come in the area that that is an area where people are either diving or snorkeling. So this boat captain, who was not a part of that tour operator, ought to have seen the markers as an indication that he should not have gone through that area. So at the very least for me, I see him as causing death by careless conduct.
There was a shooting murder on Charles Ramos Road in Dangriga at around 9:30 Sunday morning. The victim was identified as Charles Bradley, known as a Short Man. Reports are that Bradley was in his yard when two men passed on a motorcycle. One of the men opened fire at Bradley, fatally injuring him. Bradley was a fisherman who spent the majority of his time at Tobacco Key. Questions are being asked if he was shot because of his son, who was charged on December 30, 2024, for the murder of James Aranda. The Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, today told the media that the police also believe that may be the cause, but they are investigating all possible angles.
Dangriga police were called to Ramos Road, Dangriga town, where upon arrival inside a yard they found the lifeless body of one Mr. Bradley. I think the body exhibited what appeared to be gunshot injuries. He was transported to the Southern Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Police investigation so far reveals that Bradley was inside his yard when two men passed on a motorcycle, one of whom fired shots in his direction, and those shots were what caused his fatal injuries. At this time, police is looking for one individual. We have not been able to locate that person as yet.
Sir, when looking at the motive, we know that his son was charged for murder on December 30th for the murder of
Christmas
Mr.
Day.
Aranda, the Christmas Day murder.
Yes.
Is it related to his son's murder charge?
It could be. It's a angle we're looking at, but at this time there's nothing to substantiate that that motive. But we highly believe so.
After the break, police prepared for possible retaliation in Belize City following recent flare-up. Stay with us.
Alive and dead. Freetown Drugstore, telephone 223-2876.
After months of a relative calm in Belize City, the month of March has been a busy one for police, with 5 men succumbing so far this month to gun violence in the city. Today, the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, spoke on what will be done to prevent retaliation following the city's most recent murder on a Friday. Williams said that the city has been relatively calm since.
Since we had the last escalation in Belize City, we have seen a tremendous decrease in the activities coming out of Belize City. And yes, like has always been the norm, there's always going to be this one-off. But certainly as a department, we look at that, and Mr. Romero was not able to make it to conference today, but I will be communicating with him very shortly, and as I have been communicating with him over the weekend as well, making sure that we maintain our strong presence in certain areas of Belize City, and those areas in particular are George Street, the Martins area, and as well as the Port or the Cesar Ridge area. Those are areas of concern for us. We do this without neglecting our responsibility to the other areas of Belize City, because you all know that every area on Southside Belize City do have the potential to have a flare-up at any given time. So we have to ensure that while we cover certain areas, we still need to make sure that we have the other areas covered as well. So if it requires that we have to send additional manpower to Belize City to be able to quell the issue, then we are going to do that. But so far, I believe that Belize City has been kept a bit under control, and we're hoping that we can keep it that way or make it even better moving forward.
Williams also disclosed that police will be monitoring the use of motorcycles by gang members, as they are now increasingly using that mode of transport as a means to carry out criminal activity outside of their gang territory.
As I said to my commanders this morning, that we have to pay keen attention to those gang members who are moving around on motorcycles. They are the problem, and I have given them certain tasks this morning in conference. I'm not going to say what the task is, but we have to ensure that we do what we can to eliminate those persons who are using these motorcycles to go and commit a crime. And when I say eliminate, I don't mean to, I don't know if interpret things how I want, right? I don't mean to take them out, but I mean to remove the capabilities from them to be able to go and do these type of acts. They tend to use motorcycles because it is easy for them to maneuver through the traffic and even through narrow alleys and so forth, and evade the police easily. So it is something we have been focusing on, but we need to pay more attention to it.
Police in San Pedro arrested a 35-year-old laborer from the San Mateo area of the town for rape following a report made on Saturday by a tourist who reported that she had been raped on Friday, March 21. The virtual complainant told police that she and her brother were hanging out at a bar in the Boca del Rio area when they met a man who introduced himself as Omar. All three started hanging out and visited several establishments. Finally, at 3 a.m., the siblings decided to return to their hotel and hung out on the beachfront. After her brother called it a night, the woman decided to circle around once more with Omar on a golf cart. The tourist said he took her to a wooden gazebo in the north of the island and raped her. He then drove her back to her hotel. Police relied on surveillance footage to identify the suspect, learned to be Oscar Noenau. An identification parade was held and Now was charged on Sunday. While many on social media have questioned the series of events, today the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, told the media that the tourist had no reason to lie about the incident.
Yes, a tourist reported to the police that she and other persons were socializing. They eventually went to a house or a hotel, and they hung out there for a little while more. Thereafter, she left the hotel along with an individual to go and drive, and During that time, the individual took her to a location where he had sexual intercourse with her against her will. Police have since investigated that matter, and one individual was charged for the crime of rape against the tourist, and he's expected to appear in court sometime today. Well, we do know that we have tourists and who comes to our country, and many of them tend to feel so comfortable and so relaxed with us Belizeans, because again, we are a very friendly people, and our friendliness is captured by these tourists, and so that they trust us. And it's a situation where the tourist might have placed her trust in this individual, and he took advantage of her. If a woman says no, then it is no, and a man must respect that. I was not there with them, but I don't see no reason why the tourist would lie about him. Certainly, he did something she did not consent to, and so she reported to the police, and we took the necessary action that we should be taking. And it is going to be a matter later for the judge and jury to decide his guilt or innocence.
On Friday, we reported that the United States Embassy in Belize had confirmed that 67-year-old Gregory Scott Roth, a U.S. fugitive, had been captured in Placencia. Roth, who is a former medical director, was wanted in Bexar, San Antonio, Texas, in relation to 11 counts of possession of child pornography. Today, the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, shared more information on that operation.
Yes, the police in Placencia, in conjunction with some of our specialized units, worked to be able to locate and secure the detention of a fugitive who was wanted in the U.S. He is in police custody, I believe, and should be taken out of the country very shortly, if not yet taken out. Again, we worked with our U.S. counterparts, as we do with other countries, to be able to help them to secure persons who may be hiding in Belize that are wanted by the different police organizations across the world.
Roth was arrested in November 2022 and was indicted in 2023. When he failed to show up for sentencing in December 2024, a bench warrant was issued for his arrest. In January, the Texas Attorney General's office enlisted the assistance of the U.S. Marshals Service Office, who, in collaboration with other U.S. government offices and the Lone Star Fugitive Task Force, were able to track down Roth, and he was apprehended following extensive surveillance. In other news, in late February, the U.S. State Department announced their government's expansion of the existing Cuba-related visa restriction policy. The policy targets what they call forced labor linked to the Cuban labor export program, which includes medical missions. The policy would also expand to include foreign government officials and their families who the U.S. believed to be complicit in the Cuba labor export program. A few government officials in the region have publicly said they would give up their U.S. visas in exchange for the benefits their healthcare systems receive by having Cuban health professionals employed in their countries. On Friday, the Minister of Health and Wellness, Honorable Kevin Bernard, was asked if he would do the same. Bernard declared that having a U.S. visa or traveling to the U.S. is not an important issue in his life currently. He says his focus is on the Belizean people. He also added that he does not believe the Cubans are employed under, quote, forced labor, as they are paid directly for the work they do.
The Cuban people have assisted Belize for many, many, many decades. In fact, they are here in this country providing a service to our very rural population. And we don't own the rights to whether or not the U.S. issues or grants or denies of a person's visa. That's the right of the United States government. I don't want to get into that diplomatic issue, but all I can say is that I know that Belize continues to enjoy the relationship we had with Cuba. We also have a good relationship with the United States of America, and I'm very sure that through our Foreign Affairs Ministry, they are working out and having the discussions with the U.S. government in terms of clearing up some of making clarification as to some of the concerns that the U.S. government had as it relates to the area of where they're claiming human trafficking in terms of the Cuban nationals.
But are you concerned for your own visa? Or that of your family?
Because I'm a Belizean and a Belizean first. I live in Belize. That's where my love is. And so my focus is to ensure that our Belizean people can continue to benefit from the work that we're doing as a government. Whether or not I travel the U.S. is it's far from the most important issue in my life. For now, as a Minister of Government, I am here to work for my people to ensure that we can deliver for the Belizean people.
Do you consider it forced labor?
Well, these people come to Belize and they get paid a salary to them. We don't pay the government of Cuba. Remember, that is one of the big issues, I think. But these Cuban doctors get paid a salary in Belize to their own personal accounts that they have in Belize. And so I don't see where that is forced labor, but people coming to provide a service and being remunerated in Belize for that service.
After the break, can Belize offer affordable cardiovascular care as heart disease cases rise? Stay tuned.
20 years ago, we built a company
According to statistics provided by the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, heart disease has been the leading cause of death in Belize for 2022 and 2023, the last 2 years for which data was released. Heart disease has been in the top 2 leading causes of death in the last 5 years. Cardiovascular care relating to the heart and blood vessels can be quite pricey, and many procedures may not even be available in country. When asked how the ministry intends to tackle this huge hurdle and make it affordable, Ministry of Health and Wellness Honorable Kevin Bernard spoke of the cardiovascular procedures offered by the KHMH. He also said there are currently Belizeans abroad specializing in this branch of medicine and others. He did admit, though, that with the cost being high to receive treatment local and abroad, the focus is now on prevention.
Well, one of the things, as you know, of course, at least at KHMH, we do these cardiovascular services, and so. But it's all, yes, indeed, in the country we may not have all the necessary human skills to be able to have all of these necessary high level, of course, treatment addressed. But what you need is prevention. We need to ensure that people start to live healthy, and that's why it starts from the core. It starts from the policy we set out in the nutrition policy, the healthy eating habits in the schools, starting with our young. We have to start from somewhere, and I think that once we are able to implement these things and enforce these things, people will then start to live healthier lives. We have to keep repeating these things to ensure that, and the plan speaks about that, making people healthier lifestyles, people habits are changed, and we're hoping that we can turn these things around. Now, of course, accessing some of these high-end services in Belize is a bit difficult, and so people have to go out and do this care. But it is our vision and our hope that at some point Belize can also offer these type of services. We have health professionals, we have doctors who are now doing specialized training out there. There are people who I think there is a female doctor in Guatemala who is a pediatric oncologist studying for bringing that service in Belize. We're also I think we have several nephrologists being trained outside, because again, one of our leading death is in people with diabetes, and so we have to ensure that we're able to attract those persons.
The Belize football national A team lost a CONCACAF Gold Cup qualifier game 7-0 to Costa Rica on home turf Friday night. The Costa Rican team was the highest ranked team to ever play in Belize and delivered our worst ever home defeat. The game was held at the FFB Stadium in Belmopan, and tickets were sold out, with hundreds of fans unable to make it inside. Ahead of the game, fans had been clamoring for the disclosure of the roster of players, but only 2 names of the 23 were revealed by head coach Charlie Slusher. It was not until the day of the game that the full roster was made available. Slusher affirmed that the slate comprised experienced players of great quality. Responding to the exclusion of certain key players, Slusher blamed their lack of commitment in the 4-week training camp. The favored players, he said, had not been showing up to the training as required and therefore had to be replaced. However, he did not address the underlying cause for the lack of participation, which was cited as dissatisfaction over financial compensation. In some cases, existing game fees were eliminated, and in others, training stipends were reduced. This placed a strain on our players, many of whom are not professional players and are not supported by their employers. With their own financial obligations they must meet, they must weigh their options. There is also another aspect that hindered the roster selection, and it has to do with the willingness of the Premier League teams to release players due to the teams competing for playoff spots and CONCACAF qualifications. The return match against the regional football powerhouse, who on Friday demonstrated its preeminence with skills, tactics, and dominance, is set for Tuesday in San Jose, Costa Rica. Kevin Herrera has been endorsed once more to become the representative for the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Belize Business Bureau in the Senate. Herrera said he was honored to take up the post once more and stated, quote, "Your continued trust and confidence reaffirm our shared commitment to advocating for policies that promote economic growth, investment, and a thriving private sector. I remain dedicated to representing the interests of businesses across Belize with integrity, collaboration, and a steadfast focus on sustainable development. Together, we will continue working towards a stronger, more prosperous Belize," end quote. He will be sworn in along with other social partner senators at the inaugural sitting of the Senate at a date to be announced later. They are Louis Wade for the churches, Janelle Trinona for the NGOs, and Glenfield Dennison for the NTUCB. As we reported on Friday's newscast, 21-year-old Floyd McFadden was fatally shot near Constitution Park on Cemetery Road in Belize City just after midnight, early on Friday morning. Initial investigation has revealed that McFadden was driving his white Ford Fusion from St. Martin's de Porres and was driving on Cemetery Road. As he approached First Choice Pharmacy, a passenger traveling on a motorcycle behind him fired multiple shots in his direction, causing McFadden's fatal injuries. Also injured were 20-year-old Troy Gentle and 21-year-old Dean Gladden, who were traveling with McFadden. Both have been treated and released. Police have since charged 18-year-old Shenyon Levi Barrow of Belize City with murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, dangerous harm, grievous harm, and 2 counts of use of deadly means of harm. The Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, today told the media that police believe McFadden was not the intended target.
Thursday night, early Friday morning, police responded to information of shots fired on Cemetery Road, Belize City. Upon arrival, they encountered a white car, and inside the vehicle was the lifeless body of a male person. That person was taken to the KHMH, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. There were 2 other persons inside the vehicle who also sustained minor injuries. Those persons were treated and released. Police have since conducted investigation into that matter, which revealed that the white car had gone somewhere in the St. Martin's area. And leaving out of St. Martin's, they were followed closely behind by a motorcycle. And reaching the area of Constitutional Park, one of the persons on the motorcycle fired multiple shots at the vehicle, causing the fatal injuries to the victim. Police investigation have led to the arrest of a guy from the Martins area. I think his name is Barrow. He was charged for 1 count of murder and 2 counts of use of deadly means of harm against the 2 other persons. And I concur with the statement of the family of the deceased that he is not an active gang member per se, but like I think the father rightly mentioned that it could have been as a result of the company he kept, because while he is not out there actively involved in gang activities, and indeed he's a working person, he do have friends who are a part of the George Street gang, and we certainly believe that he was not the intended target, but again, he was the one driving the vehicle, and so he was caught up in that issue, and that led to his death.
Over the weekend, authorities at the Hull Chan Marine Reserve were on alert after discovering a barge within the area of Cayo Rosario. They were initially alerted by a tour guide. Upon investigation, they determined that there were no signs of dredging in the area and no one was found on board, but the barge appeared to be stuck on the seabed due to the shallow waters and low tides. Hull Chan says it will continue to monitor the area for any illegal activity. No information has been provided about an investigation of who owns the barge or how it got there. The area representative, Andre Perez, shared that the DOE and the mining department in the Ministry of Natural Resources have also been informed. There is also no word on whether it may be the same barge as that sighted 2 weekends ago. And the Garifuna Collective and Niwani Martinez will be among the multiple groups and artists who will participate in Tuesday's tribute to the late great Aurelio Martinez. Niwani is Aurelio's 18-year-old son who received his father's gift of song. Other artists set to perform include the Wagirile drummers, Reckless, Lloyd, Augustin, Joshua Arana, Nuru and the Garifuna Heartbeat Band, John P. and the Bimeti Cultural Band, and the Ugundani Garifuna Dance Group, among others. The tribute begins at 4 p.m. at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts in Belize City. The concert will be held outside of the Bliss on Southern Foreshore. And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.